right, how is everyone doing tonight? It is Tuesday, October the 25th, currently almost 9 o'clock Central Time PM. This is PLAR History and Geography here at Wasa in Sulico. My name is Jonathan and I am your teacher for this course. Uh, Again, just to have a couple announcements before we begin the class. One, this is week number 8, which means that we have one more week after this week for this term, term 1A. Okay, so we got this week and next week, and then that is it for this term. So we're almost at the end of term 1A. Next announcement is that myself and Barb Matusik are now no longer going to Big Trout. Unfortunately, there was a death in the community, so our community visit trip has to be canceled and postponed to a later date. Probably will take place next term, term 1B. Okay, so I'm no longer traveling this week, so I'm back to normal class schedule. That's why I'm here live, because it's Tuesday, 9 o'clock, which is my time slot for this term, which also means that I will be with everyone again on Thursday, 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time at our normal time slot. Okay, so no more class switches. So Andrew and myself are no longer switching class. So which means that tomorrow night will be PLAR English with Andrea. Same as normal, no changes in regards to class switches. Okay, so sorry for any confusions. I did post it on my Facebook status here and there. Hopefully DC will remind students. You guys got that message as well, or saw on my Facebook status. Okay, so again, sorry for any inconvenience that have may cause, but again, no longer traveling to Big Trout. Has been postponed to a later date. Probably will be next term. When that's figured out, again, I'll remind the class if I'm traveling. But we're back on schedule. Other than that, nothing is new, nothing has changed. We're at week 8, near the end. Almost at the end of this term. We got 1 week left to go. Okay, so we're almost there. To participate, like always, just call the Wasa studio by phone, either at home or at your learning center. Again, you can always get in touch with me, your teacher Jonathan, at any point. Just give me a call, send me an email, fire off a message on Facebook. Again, I'm always there checking during my office hours. Again, if you're unable to come to class for any unknown reason, that is okay. Again, if you miss any materials, again, all the answers are in your textbook. You can always go back and look at what we cover on my YouTube channel. I posted on there, and it's always recorded on the Wasa archive page as well. Okay, so many ways to get access to materials and notes if you have missed it. Again, if you don't have internet, just let me know. I can always send a USB stick with all the lessons, notes, textbook, and all that to you absolutely for free. Okay? All right. So let's begin with tonight's topic. We have an interesting topic in regards to lesson number 5, geography. We are going to deal with climate change. I have called tonight's class titled called Climate Change. Again, just a reminder, we're still looking at lesson number 5 in terms of geography. Okay, that's where we're at. If you're wondering where we're at in your textbook, we're on page 60. Okay, page 60 is where we're going to begin tonight's class. So climate change is the title and our main focus for tonight's. So let's get to our learning goals, our expectation, outline it in the curriculum document. So again, I'm going to jot this down very briefly, very quickly, so that everyone has a visual understanding of our learning goals and our expectation in terms of what you, yes, you class and students will be able to know and learn by the end of tonight's class. So 1, to know the difference between climate change and global warming. Okay, I'm not going to write all that out because it'll just take too long, but I'm just going to jot down climate change and global warming. Okay, do they mean the same thing? Well, you will find out very, very briefly. Okay, so you will know the difference between climate change and global warming. Okay, whether the same or whether different. Okay, to know the difference between climate change and global warming. Next, to understand the nature of scientific evidence regarding climate change. Okay, you'll see some scientific evidence that I will present to the class in regards to climate change. And you will understand some of those evidence by the end of tonight's class. Next, to comprehend the Kyoto Protocol and the difference perspective in Canada to it. Okay, so we'll be looking at an organization or group known as the Kyoto Protocol. Kyoto Protocol. Okay, Canada is a part of this agreement, international agreement. So we're looking at the Kyoto Protocol. To comprehend the Kyoto Protocol and the different perspectives in Canada and how we relate to it and with other countries around the world. And finally, the learning goal for tonight is to appreciate Canada's role in global context as contributor to both climate change challenges and solutions. Okay, so again, focusing on climate change, but in regards to its challenges and some solutions that everyone can do to help reduce it. Okay, so myself, everyone, even in your community as well. So those are our expectations and our learning goals for tonight. Again, just some key topics of what you, yes, you class will understand by the end of tonight's class in the next 50 or so minutes. Questions? Questions? All right, before we dive right into global warming and climate change, we're going to talk about the environment. Okay, the environment. This is on page 60 in your textbook. Okay, in your textbook. So your textbook outlines at the very top that there are four components. Okay, not just one, not just two, but there are four. Okay, four components of their environments. Okay, what are they? One, the atmosphere, which is the air. Okay, the air that we breathe and the air that's around us. Okay, that's the atmosphere. Two, the hydrosphere, which is the water. Okay, any source of water, lakes, oceans, rivers, water from a tap, the water that we drink, that is the hydrosphere. Next, third, the lithosphere. Okay, lithosphere is the Earth's crust, which is pretty much the land that we live on in our communities. And lastly, number four is the biosphere. Okay, interaction between plants, animals, people, and sustainable living. Okay, how plants, animals, and people, how we all connect, relate, and interact with one another to support living. Okay, so these are the four components of their environment. Just note their names and what's in bracket. So again, atmosphere is the air, hydrosphere is water, lithosphere is the Earth's crust, with the land. Okay, I'll write that in. Okay, land for short term. And lastly, the biosphere, which I used that phrase many times. Again, any living organisms, plants, animals, people, how we all relate and interconnect. Okay, so what's unique about the components of the environment is that they all work together. Okay, you cannot have one without the other, and they all then interconnect and support one another. So, for example, a bird or an eagle. That's a good example. An eagle, it flies through the air, which is the atmosphere. It drinks water, which I hope it does, which is the hydrosphere, and it can, I don't know, touch ground or land on the ground, which is the lithosphere. Okay, so again, example how all of the components of the environment interconnect and relate to one another. Okay, so the environment, which is pretty much what's around us, everything that's around us, which is these four categories. Okay, keep that in mind. Top of page 60, atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, barosphere. Okay, boom, awesome. All right, starting to look at our main focus for tonight. How do people impact the atmosphere? Okay, so we already learned what the atmosphere is, which is the air. Okay, you can put that in brackets. Okay, the air that we breathe in. Okay, so how do people, okay, this is kind of like a thinking question. How do people, you and I and everyone else, impact the air, for example? Impact the air. Okay, think about all the things you do in life every single day, the moment that you wake up, the moment that you close your eyes and go to bed. How do you impact the air? Okay, okay, just think about it for a second. Okay, put on your thinking caps. How do you impact the air? Well, one good example is carbon dioxide is released in the air and burning fossil fuel. Okay, so carbon dioxide and burning fossil fuel. Okay, I'm pretty sure a lot of us own some type of vehicle, whether it's a car or a truck or a minivan. Okay, as we all know, our vehicle releases carbon dioxide and other substance or pollutions into the atmosphere. Okay, especially in urban area, a lot of factories are burning fossil fuel. Okay, again, from our cars and other factors as well. Again, all this get released into our air, okay, our atmosphere, which is what we breathe. Okay, all this gets trapped into our atmosphere, which causes our Earth, our planet, to warm up. Okay, so the more we drive, the more carbon dioxide that we release, the more fossil fuel that we burn every single day, all that gets trapped into our atmosphere, which causes our planet Earth to warm up. And this process, okay, pretty much the process that everyone does, more than others to some extent, this natural phenomenon can be called global warming and climate change. But more global warming, okay? But more global warming. Not so much, I'm going to change that thought, not so much climate change, but more towards global warming, okay? Climate change is a factor, but when it more impacts global warming, okay? Keep that in mind. So all this process relates to global warming, okay? So we're going to talk about in the next slide what is global warming, and then that slide after that, we're going to talk about what is climate change. And you will note based on the two definitions and examples that we will discuss and how they are similar and how they're different. Okay, so keep that in mind. Okay, note how they're similar or how they're different in a way. Does anyone know what global warming is? Any guesses? Global warming. We hear it all the time, but what is global warming? Okay. Your textbook doesn't go in depth in terms of what is global warming. It just talks about the process of burning fossil fuel and carbon dioxide getting released and getting trapped. And the process with the sun is known as global warming. But I went a step further and I added some other additional information to expand our thinking and knowledge in terms of global warming. Okay, so global warming is the media. Okay, is media addresses change only in the average surface temperature. It does not address whether the conditions are becoming wetter or drier. This misunderstanding is the warming throughout the world is not correct. Okay, this is not correct. So basically, global warming, every time you hear the word global warming, it comes from the media. Okay, it comes from newspaper, it comes from social media, the news, what we hear on the radio. That is global warming. Okay, some of it's true, some of it's not true. It is there, it is not there. Lots of misconceptions and misguided information. As a result, global warming is a complex issue and it's always changing. Okay, think about the cause and effect. People understanding, there should be understanding by the way. Standing, sorry for my error. People understanding is poor based on cause and effects. The media provide false and incorrect information and misleading information. Okay. Again, we hear all this natural phenomenon that is Earth is warming up and all that, etc., etc. Again, that is true to an extent, but not always the case. Okay, just keep that in mind. The uncertainties existing regarding almost every aspect of global change is increasing, like random stats, variable of nature, lack of understanding, and scientific data. Okay, so again, global warming, it's there, but it's sort of the media. Okay, very complex issues. Again, our understanding of it is really limited to some extent. There's lots of facts that are some is true, some is not true. But again, global warming. That is global warming. Again, it caused a lot of confusion, okay, as well. However, on the other hand, climate change, okay, climate change, okay. Climate change is a natural variable, okay, it's naturally, okay. It is there, it is true. Climate is a natural variable. It is never exactly the same from one period to another. Again, think back to our lesson where we talked about what is weather and what is climate. Okay, apply that knowledge, weather and climate. So what is climate? Over the past 100 years, the world's climate is warming up and has increased about zero point 0.6 degrees Celsius. Okay, so over the last 100 years, it has increased about 0.6 at the end of the 20th century than it was at the beginning. The 1990s was the hottest decade in the last 140 years. Again, more example. The climate change is now scientifically an established fact. Okay, so climate change is a fact. It is proven. It is there. So, okay, so believe it or not, our climate, even in our communities, is changing. The care of our future children and generation requires action now. The danger exists. We don't know the probability of such loss in time, but we know it is caused by greenhouse gases, and it is a fact. Climate change is defined as a long-term shift in alteration in climate of specific location, region, and other planets. For example, wind, precipitation, temperature, wind pattern, speed, and direction. If any of those factors changes, it leads to climate change. So, climate change, it is a fact, it is proven. Our planet is getting warmer, okay? It is getting warmer. Okay, so hopefully, based on global warming and climate change, we can now distinguish the difference. Okay, so every time we hear climate change and global warming, we now know the difference. Okay, hopefully we can apply our inquiry skills and thinking skills to establish the difference. Okay. I wish we could spend more time in compare and contrast between the two, but we don't. So we're going to move on and look at evidence. Okay, evidence. Okay. So again, whether or not you believe it or not, it is true. Okay, so here are some examples where it is true. The world has been warming up with the average global temperature at the Earth's surface about zero point 0.6 degrees. Greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide has been rising up or increased for the last several decades. Glaciers has lost mass and gain. Okay, so glaciers are shrinking and are melting. In many areas of the world, reduced snow cover has been documented. Okay, it is true. Okay, so right now in Lookout, for example, we don't have snow on the ground. I think last year at this point in time we did. I could be wrong, but it definitely felt like it is a milder fall season compared to last year. Again, I have only been in town for last year and parts of this year so far, but I could be wrong, but that's just my personal experience. But again, we all know that winter is coming, so do not fear that. Uh, Rising sea level threatens shorelines, a part of our ecosystem. Barrier against shorelines, erosion, beaches are exposed to erosions by the waves. Groundwater are likely to become more contaminated by salt water, roads, and buildings at the risk of floods and damages. Okay, all this is true. It has been recorded to an extent. Okay, there's definitely more scientific evidence out there that support climate change, but these are just a few examples. Okay, we'll get to more examples very, very shortly. All right, the Kyoto Protocol. Okay, your textbook does talk about this, and it's something that we need to note for our assignments. So I'm going to highlight it, and this is on page 60 in your textbook, page 60. So what is the Kyoto Protocol? We know that Canada plays a role, is involved, but what is it? Well, the Kyoto Protocol was established in 1997. It's basically Canada and other nations around the world where we gather and discuss this natural phenomenon of global warming. Okay, global warming. So the goal of the Kyoto Protocol, I have noted, is it wanted mandatory cuts on greenhouse gas emissions and reinforced regulations to commit to a cleaner air. Okay, we know, okay, from facts gathered and evidence that greenhouse gases has been going up and has increased. Again, from many factors, again, driving, factories, other means, but we know it is actually happening. So we wanted to reduce it and commit to a cleaner air. So the overall goal was to reduce each country's emissions of gases by at least 5% of what it was between 1990. It should be 1999, 1990. Okay, not 1900s. Okay, reducing their overall emissions of such gases by 5% below what it was in 1990 level that was committed or achieved between 2008 and 2012. Okay, that was the goal. Again, Canada, we are a part of this. I believe we didn't achieve our goal, but even if we did, it is still not a huge progress. The Kyoto Protocol in long-term effects is just a step in the right direction. Okay, some agree with it, some disagree with it. Very controversial because the Kyoto Protocol, countries such as Australia and the United States did not sign on, okay, which raised a lot of eyebrows and questions, okay. So of a big powerhouse country like the United States with so many population and people, uh, obviously they are a huge contributor to greenhouse gas emissions. So why did they not sign on? Okay, so that raises a lot of questions. So it's hard for other countries to commit to the Kyoto Protocol and their goals and mandate if countries like the United States do not sign on. Okay, so very, very controversial. Again, just note what the Kyoto Protocol goals are and why the United States did not want to sign on. Again, the United States really want to have their own solution plan in place based on regulations in terms of companies and all that. Hence why they didn't want to uh, sign on to the Kyoto Protocol and how they thought that it will affect their economy and so forth. So they did not agree upon it. Okay. But again, if countries like the United States do not sign on, why should other countries follow along as well? Okay, something to think about. How does climate affect us? Okay, so going back to our prior knowledge that we have learned and have acquired, how does climate affect us? Again, think about that for a second. How does climate affect us? Well, it affects the food that we eat, in terms of whether or not we have access to it. Uh, Food that we grow, can we grow the food? Yes or no? Based on the climate, if it's changing or not. Clothing, if it's hot and warm, you can wear sunglasses or flip-flops or shorts. But if it's fall season or winter, we gotta put that away and bust out our toque, our gloves, our heavy winter jackets. Okay, our winter tires, for example. Okay, things to think about. Types of shelter we live. Okay, so we want a nice warm house. Okay, we may not necessarily need more air conditions or fan, but we need more heaters, for example, or vice versa. And overall, just our values and our lifestyle. Okay, the things we do every single day, things that we appreciate. Okay, so believe it or not, weather is a huge factor. Okay, if the weather is changing, if the climate is changing long term, our lifestyles and the values and how we do things every single day will change as well. Okay, whether it's positive or negative. Okay, again, think about it. Just think about that. Human actions are causing climate to change more quickly than ever before. Yes, we talked about climate is changing. There is proof, there is evidence, it is scientifically proven, but our human actions are causing it to change even faster than ever before, which is kind of scary, believe it or not. Okay, believe it or not. So now I'm gonna provide a class with a few examples of pros and cons of climate change. Okay, so this is pretty much page 61, 2, 3, and 4 in your textbook. Okay. Okay, so I summarize basically page 61 to page 64, where it talks about climate change and global warming, into these couple slides. Okay, I basically just summarize it and alter it a little bit. But we'll look at the positive and the negative. Yes, climate change sounds bad, but there can be some positive that comes out of it as well. So let's look at it. The pros to climate change. Frozen regions like Siberia, the Arctic, and Antarctica may experience milder climate and more plant growth. Okay, that could be a plus. Okay, never know. That could be a plus. Uh, some people don't like the cold, so they could have milder and warmer temperatures and climates and even more plant growth. Okay, Another positive is longer growing season. Okay, longer growing season. Believe it or not, this actually benefits Canada. Okay, we can now grow more crops, vegetation, fruits and vegetables in our backyards, uh, and others as well. Okay, it's a longer growing season, which means that we have more food, okay, more supply. Okay, in the end. Okay, obviously we can't grow much when the ground is frozen or has frost on it, but with milder temperatures and climates, this could be a positive. Okay, think about it. If you can grow more for more months and longer periods of time, that could be good. Okay, that could be good. But there are also some negative consequences that comes along with climate change as well. Okay, so the cons. Higher sea level are going up, so glaciers and snow are melting, which causes the sea level to increase and go up, which can cause floods. Okay, uh, big city like Tokyo and New York live on the shoreline, so if sea level goes up, they are at a greater risk of having floods, which can cause uh, dispopulation, people moving, and cause damages and a lot of money. Okay, which is not good. Deserts become drier. So a desert like the Sahara Desert in Africa, it's already dry and it becomes even drier. Okay, which means that the soil becomes very, very bad. Uh, just very, very dry in general. Leads to more illness, leads to more disease and death. Okay, so heat stroke, heat exhaustion could be a factor. People with asthma, especially our elders, even youth could be at risk. More extreme weather, that is a big one. If you notice that there's a lot more hurricanes and all that happening more often than others. So again, more damages, more homes and communities being lost. Okay, more extreme weathers and storms. Again, heat wave. Again, another example of extreme weather. More pollution. It also affects animals and plants extinction. So think about our marine-based mammals and animals. So polar bears, seals, walruses, others could be at risk of extinction. Okay, they cannot really adapt as quickly as we can to these change in climates. Okay, so our friends such as the polar bears could be extinct if we don't change things. And the disappearance in national and provincial parks due to landscapes and the land and all that. So as you note, this is my list of the cons. Also, you know that there are more negatives than positive. Feel free to add some of your examples to the list. This is not a set in stone list. If you can think of other examples in terms of positives and negatives, in terms of climate change, how it could affect you and your family and your community, let me know. Share it with the class, and I'll be more than happy to add it to our list for next time. Okay. So again, think about it, how it can affect you. Okay. If it's getting warmer, do you like it? Do you dislike it? Okay. What are the positive? What are the negative? Okay. How does it affect your land, the way of living, your community? Okay. Other factors as well. Again, this is just not within our communities, but it also affects worldwide as well, other countries and nations. Well, Jonathan, you taught us a lot about climate change and global warming, but how can we fix this problem? Okay, so now we're going to talk about solutions. Okay, we talked lots about the challenges and barriers that comes and go with climate change, but how can we fix this? What can we do every day to help fix this? Well, there are lots that we can do absolutely every day within our community. Okay, I have summed it up into two categories. but you can all put it into one giant list. Okay, so how to deal with climate change. Okay, these are things that we, okay, as individuals can do absolutely every day. Okay, so I call this mitigation. Okay, don't need to know that fancy term, but just in one example. Mitigations means take actions to reduce problem. In other words, what kind of actions can you do to help reduce this problem? Okay, action to reduce this problem. Think about it. So for example, pretty clear, we should reduce greenhouse gases. Okay, so drive less, walk more. Okay, switch from fossil fuel to more energy efficient, such as solar power and wind power. Okay, we'll talk more about that next class in terms of renewable and non-renewable energy sources next class. But again, switch fossil fuel to solar and wind power. Okay, wind turbines could be a factor. Drive more efficient cars. Okay, it doesn't mean that we should not drive cars, but we should drive more efficient cars. Uh, Car that stays on gas and does not emit a lot of emissions. Public transit, especially those in Thunder Bay. Okay, uh, we don't have public transit here in Silicon, but especially our friends in Thunder Bay and Southern Ontario, public transit is a factor. Biking, okay, something that I used to do a lot way back in the day, but not so much anymore. But biking, okay, if you have a bike, bike more often. Walk, okay, okay. These are all examples that we can do. Okay, walk. I try to walk pretty much every single day to work, uh, to Wassa. So again, if I can do it, you can do it too. Okay, so which means that again, you can walk to the northern store, you can walk to your learning center, you can bike to the learning center. You can bike to your friend's house. You can scooter, jog, rollerblade, other factors as well. Turn off the lights. Okay, if you're not using the lights, turn it off. Okay, save some energy. Plant more trees because trees not just symbolize growth and our values of life, but it absorbs greenhouse gases. Okay, it intakes all that bad air that's out there. And recycle, reduce, reuse. Okay. Again, garbage creates heat. So again, recycle any material that's recyclable, paper, plastic, cans, reuse things, reduce things. Okay. Again, these are just a small snapshot of examples that we can do every single day to reduce the problem of climate change and global warming. Okay. So hopefully we can use some of these examples within our own communities as well. Okay. Again, another factor that helps deal with climate change, I like to call it adaptation. Adaptation, or we're adapting. Okay. Change or adjustment to a new situation. So we must change our behavior, change our thinking, and come to the conclusion that yes, global warming is happening, climate change is happening, so we must adapt to it. Okay, we must change our situations on a day-to-day basis. Okay, so something that we can do is take advantage of this and grow more crops in new climate. Okay, so why not? If we can grow longer, take advantage of it so that we have more food supplies. Uh, Expand healthcare. This is something for our government to consider, or other governments around the world, is to expand healthcare to treat health problems caused by the weather. We know that this is going to be a problem, so why not extend it and get it prepared for the future? Build more parks. Again, where our counselors and our governments and our communities can take charge by building more parks so that we have space to cool off. Okay, so that we can sit under a bench under a nice big tree to cool off, stuff like that. Okay, things that we should just adjust to and change and just come to that realization that climate change and global warming is a fact. It is there. And lastly, government and business. Again, something that's kind of out of our hands, but businesses and government can be involved as well. They can increase energy efficient standards. So something that here that we can do at WASO, again, just use more natural light, for example. Encourage the use of renewable energy, again, solar and wind power. And just things that we can do every day to protect and restore our trees and our forests. Okay. Again, something that we can do as well, not just businesses and governments. So again, I can play a role, you can play a role, everybody can play a role in fixing these solutions to help with climate change and global warming. We can't change it overnight, of course. So it'll take a long time. We gotta start now, because if we don't, things will change drastically, and that can impact our future generation. Something that we can have may no longer be there, and it just can be a huge crisis. Okay, so that's our tonight's lesson on global warming and climate change. Hopefully, your learning goals have been met in terms of knowing the difference between climate change, global warming, understanding the nature of scientific evidence regarding climate change, comprehending the Kyoto Protocol, and to appreciate Canada's role in context and as a contributor to both climate change in terms of its challenges and as its solutions. Okay? Are there any questions? Questions? Again, we only have an hour in terms of looking at this topic. Again, we can always look at back at it next class and so forth. I wish we could spend like weeks and weeks going through each topic in depth using our critical thinking skills and our inquiry thinking skills where you can actually explore this topic, because I think global warming and climate change is very significant. It impacts us every single day. Uh, your textbook just provides very briefly. I try my best to add some information in terms of these two topics. But again, feel free to research. Okay, take advantage of other textbooks. Take advantage of the internet. You can simply just Google these two terms, global warming and climate change, and you will absolutely get tons of information. Okay, just tons, and absolutely endless amount of information on these two topics. Again, it is constantly changing because this is current topic, and this current topic is always changing as well. So again, just keep that in mind as well. But again, if you want more information, we can discuss about it in class together, have an open discussion. But again, lots more information on the web and other sources as well. All right, let's get to assignment 14. Kind of short assignment, 15 marks. So, assignment 14, question number 1. Name and describe the 4 components of the environment. Okay, so what are the 4 components of the environment, and describe them. So think about the very first slide we talked about, its name and what's in bracket. Okay, so for example, hydrosphere, describe hydrosphere, it is water. Okay, atmosphere, describe it, the air. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Okay, for each one. Question number 2. What does global warming mean? And why should we be concerned about its effect on the Earth? Okay, so you are one, defining global warming. Again, that brief definition is in your textbook. What page, Jonathan? Well, it is on page 60. Okay, so again, refer back to your textbook on page 60. What is global warming? Describe it. What does it mean? How does it cause? And why should we be concerned? Okay, about its effect on our planet and on the Earth. Again, the textbook gives some example. I have also added tons of examples in our lecture. Again, feel free to use both. Okay, so whatever we discuss in class, feel free to use that as well. Okay, so what is global warming and why should we be concerned about it? What are the effects about it? Okay, whether it's positive or negative, so what are the effects? Why should we be concerned? Okay, what can happen? Okay, if this happens. Okay, again, note it's out of 5 marks, so which means that I'm looking for more details, more content, not just 2 sentences. Okay, but add details to order to receive full marks. Okay, if you want to get 5 out of 5, again, just details and details. Again, class, if you're unsure if you have enough details or if you're on the right track or if you're missing something, uh, let me know. Send a little example, take a little picture of it, write your answer down, take a little picture of it, send it to me, and ask me if you're on the right track, and I will give you feedback. Okay, I will give you feedback right on the spot. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. Okay, always ask if you're unsure. Again, I'm here to help. I'm here to help. Question number 3. Name the agreement that has been drafted by the international community to address global warming situation. And what is it designed to accomplish? And what is holding it back from enforcing it? Okay. So again, a couple things that comes out from this answer. Uh, what was that name that we're looking for? Hint, hint, the Kyoto Protocol. In other words, what was the Kyoto Protocol designed to do? And what country basically did not sign on? Okay? And for what reason? Okay? Again, that's all on page 60 as well. Okay? So make sure you go back and look up your textbook if you're unsure. Okay? So again, that international committee that was drafted was the Kyoto Protocol, where Canada was involved and other countries as well. What was it designed to do? And what country, in other words, what country did not sign on and why did it not sign on? Hint, hint, United States. Okay. Again, that's out of 4 marks. And question number 4, last question. What can we do as individuals to reduce global warming? Okay, there are tons of things that we can do, okay, as individuals to help reduce global warming. Okay, so for this one, put on your thinking caps, use some critical thinking, think outside the box, get some examples of what we can do, of what I can do, for example, to help reduce global warming. Okay, so use those knowledge and understanding, give some examples of what we can do or as individuals can do to help reduce global warming. Okay, so that's 2 marks. I'm looking for a couple of examples. Okay, and that is assignment 14. Okay, questions, which means that we have 2 more topics to look at for this term, which means that next class on Thursday, same time, same spot, we'll be looking at pollution and conservation. Okay, pollution. So what is pollution? Again, more definition. And conservation, things that we can preserve and protect. Okay, so that's what we're looking at next class. A week from today, next week, week 9, we'll be looking at latitude and longitude. And then we'll wrap things up next Thursday for this course and this term. Okay? Are there any questions, class? A very interesting topic we have for tonight. Again, very current issues, very controversial, and so forth. Again, continue to work on your assignments. Cannot stress that enough. So again, continue to work on it, and please make sure you submit it as well. Okay, get your DSC to scan it, fax it to me here at Wasser and Silico. If you're in town, just stop by the office. You can give it to me in person, and I can take care of the rest. But again, just work on your assignments, submit them. That way I can mark it, give you feedback. And for those who are eligible to write your tests, hopefully you can do that as soon as you can, so that you are done with this section of PLAR. Okay? Awesome. I think we're going to stop it there for tonight, and I will see everyone back here on Thursday, same time, 9 o'clock p.m. Central Time. Again, I'm no longer going to Big Trout. No more class cancellation. Andrea is tomorrow for PLAR English at this time. But again, no more switches. Okay. Have a good weekend as we prepare for Halloween, and I'll see everyone on Thursday. Thank you.